Before we cover the ongoing scrambling of MAGA Republicans to spin Donald Trump's disastrous debate performance against Vice President Kamala Harris last night, I think it's also important to acknowledge the fleeting moments of panicked honesty from MAGA Republicans and Fox News hosts that Trump did indeed lose the debate before those voices are drowned out. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as I said, this is something worth talking about because I assure you the relatively agile propaganda machine coming from the right will find a way to crush dissenting voices and to spin out some sort of copium, delusional narrative that somehow Donald Trump strategically won the debate last night by crashing and burning in front of God and country. It was part of his 4D chess plan. So with that in mind, for just the sake of posterity and also to delight in the soul-crushing experience of MAGA Republicans and MAGA media and Fox News hosts publicly acknowledging that Trump tanked it, I think we have to talk about that. So we're going to start here just as a palate cleanser. Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican governor of New Hampshire who is supporting Donald Trump against Vice President Harris, supported him against President Biden, even though during the primary, he was a Trump critic. At the end of the day, party loyalty matters more to Sununu than love of country. And even he admitted on CNN, Trump did it.
Who won the debate last night?
Oh, well, Kamala definitely won the debate. There's no question about that.
I mean, there's a reason that Sununu has successfully presented himself as an affable, reasonable, non-Trumpian Republican. He's willing to occasionally say stuff like that, like, oh, yeah, there's no doubt that, Vice President Harris won the debate. No uncertain terms. Of course, he would go on to say, well, it's not about the debate. There's so much more to it than that. But he publicly acknowledged that Trump lost the debate. Now, again, before we play some additional clips of right-wing media and right-wing figures acknowledging that Trump lost, I want to tune in briefly to an earlier clip, or a clip from earlier today, rather, of Donald Trump, who was trying to insist to the American people, unpersuasively, that he won the debate. And he won it so hard, he's still not sure about whether or not he'll have a second debate with the vice president.
And, no, we're looking at it, but, when you win, you don't really necessarily have to do it a second time. So we'll see. But I thought we had a great debate last night. Thank you very much.
What would need to change for you to agree to a second debate? Would you want different rules? Would you want a different format?
Well, when you don't win, it's like a fighter. When a fighter has a bad fight, gets knocked out, or loses the fight, the first thing he says is, we want a rematch. So we won the debate according to every poll, every single poll. I think that, are we going to do a rematch? I just don't know. But we'll think about it.
Would you still do the one on NBC on September 25th? You proposed that. Are you still committed to that?
I would do NBC. I'd do Fox too. I'd do Fox too. But right now we have to determine whether or not we even want to do it. We had a great night last night. And you see by the poll numbers, it was really fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody.
He can't get a damn answer straight. He contradicts himself 40 times. All the polls say that we won. That's not true. I digress. And yeah, I would definitely do the one on NBC, which I proposed. But, winners, they don't have to have follow-up debates. Losers are the ones who want follow-up debates. And yes, I wanted follow-up debates, but I wasn't a loser when I did it. It was different when I did it. And yeah, I proposed this debate. I'm happy to do that debate, or maybe even a different debate on Fox. But honestly, I don't know if I want to do any of them. So pathetic. Pure cope billowing from this man's orange ruddy pores. So we're going to play some other clips of Fox propagandists who love Trump, want Trump to win, accepting the reality. Of course, this was immediately after the debate, so they were so shell-shocked by Trump's disastrous performance. I assume they didn't have time to rally and mount some sort of delusional defense. Of course, they have close to 24 hours now, so I imagine we'll see more coke coming from Fox and Newsmax and right-wing media in time to come. But let's go with their immediate aftermath. Tomi Lahren, MAGA Republican, Fox News host, said it was a rigged ambush of a Donald Trump. Goes to show how emotional the situation was, right? That typo. But he took the bait. He didn't have to. He shouldn't have. Tacit admission that Trump screwed up. And now let's get into some of the clips. Brit Hume, guy that I've ranted about in previous videos. He is the chief political analyst of the Fox Propaganda Network. He makes no bones about it. We're going to play a couple of clips of Brit because Brit acknowledges reality in the situation that Trump tanked it.
Her nominee, Tim Walz. This is a different person who was well prepped,
absolutely
well prepared, had answers, and knew where she was going.
Not only a different person from the person she was in that interview on CNN, but a different person from the absolute dunderhead so many of us thought she was during her conduct as vice president, when she would come out with these ludicrous statements that started nowhere and ended in midair.
Unburdened by the past.
Unburdened by common sense. And here she was tonight. She was composed. She was prepared. She kept her cool. She saw advantages. She took them. She baited him successfully, which is the story of the debate, in my view. So she came out ahead in this, in my opinion. No doubt. Now, whether it'll move the needle in the race, very few things seem to, but that remains to be seen.
So that's Brit Hume insulting the vice president every chance he possibly could, making clear his particular bias, his particular preferences, his low expectations of the vice president because he thinks she's an idiot, and yet admitting that Trump was outsmarted. He was outfoxed. The vice president was better prepared. She lured him. She baited him. She was the puppet master controlling the conversation, and Donald Trump was too stupid and too reckless to do anything other than just follow along blindly. And I love that. Can you imagine being a Fox viewer, a diehard Trump supporter, watching this in real time and hearing the truth, which is that Donald Trump tanked it like Hindenburg levels of disaster. Well, Brit Hume had more to say on the subject, and so we got to talk about that too.
Now, look, make no mistake about it. Trump had a bad night. He rose to the bait repeatedly when she baited him, something I'm sure his advisors had begged him not to do. In the first debate when Biden attacked him, he just kept his cool and kept going. In this debate, he rose to debating, and we heard so many of the old grievances that we'd long thought that Trump had learned were not winners politically. Mm-hmm. And there they all were, talking about how he didn't lose the election and all that. I mean, my sense is that she came out of this in pretty good shape. Now, how long this will last and is anybody's guess. But for tonight, at least, this was pretty much her night.
You're saying she had a good night?
I'm saying she certainly did.
Sean Hannity is in the
Of course. Then, of course, they cut to Sean Hannity. I can't imagine. Sean Hannity was probably breathing into a paper bag to avoid hyperventilating. To go from relatively sober analysis from Brit Hume, then to pivot to Sean Hannity was like, well, listen, Trump, he wanted to bait Kamala into being a bully. Trump strategically ruined this debate. He tanked this debate for strategic purposes that you plebs simply don't understand. And my God, how about those biased moderators? How dare they, fact check Trump's many blatant, dangerous lies? How dare they do that? What are moderators supposed to do? Fact check lies? I mean, God, who does that? It's so funny. And Hume is right. Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, the more sober Trump advisors, have been begging Trump behind the scenes, please, for the love of God, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. It's not worth it. You will not win on that score. But there's also a reason Trump brought back the likes of Corey Lewandowski. Corey Lewandowski, disgraced Trump operative, a guy who has had sexual scandals, a guy who has lied blatantly to the media and then been exposed about it on the floors of the floor of Congress. His philosophy was let Trump be Trump. And that's what Trump wants to hear. Good, bad, or indifferent. All he wants to hear is, sir, you're perfect and godly. Just do whatever the hell you want. Trump's advisors, again, the good ones, were not telling him to do that. Because again, if you're Donald Trump and you're wildly unpopular and you have a terrible record, you need to be somebody else other than yourself, right? I mean, Trump being Trump helps secure the MAGA base, but the MAGA base is insufficient, woefully insufficient, to win a general election. So to win a general election, then you have to be somebody else. And Trump doesn't want to hear that. And so Trump was himself during that debate, defied all the conventional wisdom and suffered the consequences. Another clip.
Vice President Harris was clearly well prepared, practiced on the offensive much of the night. Former President Trump did take a lot of the bait that she threw out in some of those answers.
And some of those answers? All of those answers. What the hell are you talking about? You know, the one that I was really looking forward to, kind of in a roundabout way, even though Republicans hate him now, is Chris Wallace, who is a former Fox News host, is relatively conservative, has interviewed Donald Trump, has moderated debates with Donald Trump. And this is what he had to say about it.
I didn't think I was ever going to witness a debate as devastating as the one that you and Dana moderated back in June, where Joe Biden basically tanked his reelection campaign. I think tonight was just as devastating. I think that Kamala Harris pitched a shutout on almost every subject I can think of. She shut Trump down on abortion. She shut Trump down on January 6th and democracy. She shut him down on national security and turned to the former president and said, the military leaders who served with you think that you're a disgrace. And then, as Dana mentioned, very powerfully at the end made the point that she is the candidate of change. We need to turn the page from a decade of division and polarization. On substance, I think she pitched a shutout, and I think she did on style as well. I mean, the image of the debate to me is she's there happy, smiling, expressive, shaking her head and dismay at things Trump was saying. And Trump looked angry, scowling. She was looking directly at the audience. He was looking at the moderators and arguing with them. And something else.
And
Donald Trump looked old tonight.
Yeah.
78 years old. He's the oldest presidential candidate in American history. Poll after poll after poll after poll shows that the majority of Americans think that he's not physically and mentally fit to be president. That was pretty devastating from Chris Wallace. Again, a conservative veteran journalist and former Fox News host who has personal experience with Trump in terms of debates and interviews. It's a devastating assessment that he has. Yeah, thinking about it, and I'm like, that's pretty harsh. But you know what? I can do you one better. Do you one better? I wish we actually had video footage of this. But apparently Lindsey Graham, top Trump ally, desperately, emotionally wants Trump to win. This was his assessment.
I asked several of his surrogates like what they thought, and the number one question I asked them was, what did you think his best answer was tonight? None of them could come up with anything. David Blasio was like, you really put me on the spot there with that one. Give me a minute. And then he came up with nothing. And then I saw my old friend Lindsey Graham. We used to be pals in 2016 when he was a Jeb endorser, and we had a pretty heated exchange, I will have to say, where he said I should be ashamed of myself, and the feeling was kind of mutual. But after our argument about the state of affairs of politics, when we calmed down a little bit, he looked at me and he was just like, you are right about one thing. That was a disaster. He was unprepared, and we should fire the debate team. And I was like, oh.
Ouch. Coming from Lindsey Graham, of all people. Well, folks, there you have it. Again, we're going to talk about, I said that earlier today, this was going to be a day of victory laps because we don't know how many days those will be available. Trump may still win the election, so we got to take these victory laps when and where we can. That was a series of prominent MAGA Republicans, mostly in right-wing media, publicly acknowledging that Donald Trump failed spectacularly in last night's debate. And then in subsequent videos, we're going to explore the cope and the spin that they're desperately trying to engage in. But in the meantime, here is just the outright acknowledgement that Trump was defeated, crushed, humiliated publicly, and we should totally enjoy that. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.